Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something huge by thinking small.
That sounds like a paradox.
It kind of is. Our mission is to give you the ultimate shortcut to understanding radical change, really digging into the sources you've shared about, well, the surprising power of tiny steps.
Right. We're cracking open the science of behavior change.
And it all centers on this one pretty extraordinary claim that the smallest possible changes, what the sources call atomic habits, are actually the most powerful drivers of compounding success, the kind that sneaks up on you.
Exactly. And that word atomic, it's chosen carefully. It means two things, really.
Okay.
First, like you said, the smallest possible unit, something so tiny you almost can't break it down further, like an atom in physics.
Makes sense. Irreducible?
The second, and this is key, atomic also refers to the source of immense energy. Think atomic power.
Ah, okay. So tiny, but also incredibly powerful.
Precisely. And our job today is to unpack how things like your identity, your environment, and crucially, getting immediate satisfaction, how these things combine to unleash that huge power from what seem like, well, really insignificant actions at first.
Got it. And to really ground this, we have to start with the author's own story, don't we? Because this isn't just theory for him.
Not at all. This framework was forged in quite a dramatic personal experience.
Yeah.
He literally used these ideas to rebuild his life.
Tell us about that. It sounds intense.
It was. So back in 2002, he was a college baseball player, very driven, and then bam, a baseball bat hit him square in the face during practice.
Oh, wow. That sounds horrific.
The trauma was massive. Broken nose, multiple facial fractures, I think 6. His left eye was actually bulging out of the socket.
Jeez.
And when he first came to, he was incredibly confused, didn't know what year it was. At the nurse's office, he thought it was 1998 that Bill Clinton was president. That gives you an idea of the head injury.
Yeah, that level of confusion and the memory loss, it really speaks to how severe that impact must have been. Scary stuff.
Absolutely. And recovery was slow, really slow. Weeks of double vision, seizures. It took him 8 months before he could even drive a car again.
8 months? That's a long time to be sidelined.
It is. And, considering his background, his dad played minor league baseball for the St. Louis Cardinals. The real low point, emotionally, came a year later.
What happened then?
He got back on the field, tried out for the varsity team again, and he was cut. Relegated to junior varsity, playing with the sophomores. For someone with his ambitions, that was a huge blow.
Wow, I can only imagine. That must have crushed his identity as a serious ball player.
Completely. And I think that experience, the physical trauma forcing him onto such a slow path, it kind of forced him to abandon any ideas of some grand, heroic comeback.
He had to focus on just the basics, the absolute smallest steps to just function again.
Exactly that. He couldn't rely on big breakthroughs. He had to build back brick by tiny brick. And his eventual success, it wasn't overnight.
Right, it took time.
6 years later, 6 years after that injury, in 2008, he was named the top male athlete at Denison University. He made the ESPN Academic All-America team. Graduated with his name in the school record books for, 8 different categories.
That's an incredible turnaround from being cut from varsity to that level of achievement.
It really is. And the point is, that transformation came from relying entirely on these small, consistent habits, day after day. It wasn't one big leap. It was the relentless power of those tiny atomic steps that allowed him to rebound and, fulfill his potential.
That story really sets the stage perfectly for this whole idea of marginal gains, doesn't it? The core principle we're diving into.
It really does. It shows it's not just theory.
And the sources give us this fantastic, almost legendary example from sports, British cycling.
Ah, yes. Before 2003, British cycling was, let's just say they weren't exactly setting the world on fire.
That's putting it mildly, right? They were known for mediocrity.
Pretty much. Get this. Since 1908, they'd won only one Olympic gold medal. In over 100 years of the Tour de France, not a single British cyclist had ever won.
That's genuinely bad.
It gets worse. Their reputation was so poor that a top European bike manufacturer actually refused to sell them bikes.
Wait, seriously, why?
They were worried that if top cyclists saw the British team using their equipment, it would actually damage the manufacturer's brand image and hurt sales.
Wow. That's rock bottom, isn't it? Being actively avoided by suppliers?
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
Then, in 2003, everything changed. They hired Dave Brailsford as their performance director.
And he brought in this completely different philosophy.
He did. He called it the aggregation of marginal gains. The core idea wasn't about finding one magic bullet, one huge breakthrough.
No big secret weapon.
Nope. Instead, the goal was to find a tiny margin of improvement, just 1% in absolutely everything they did, every single aspect of cycling.
And when you say everything, you mean everything.
Oh, yeah. Brailsford was obsessive about the details. It wasn't just, train harder. They looked at things you wouldn't even think of.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Okay, so they redesigned the bike seats for better comfort, looking at pressure points. They started rubbing alcohol on the tires for slightly better grip.
Alcohol on tires, that sounds minuscule.
It is. But the idea was these tiny gains add up. They tested different massage gels to see which ones help muscles recover fastest. They even hired a surgeon to teach the athletes the best way to wash their hands to reduce the chance of getting sick.
Hand washing for cyclists.
Yep. Fewer colds meant more consistent training days. They thought about the pillows and mattresses the team used when traveling to optimize sleep quality.
Okay, this is way beyond just the bike itself.
Totally. They brought in electrically heated overshorts, so the rider's muscles stayed at the ideal temperature while waiting around before races. They tested fabrics and wind tunnels.
Standard enough for cycling, I guess?
But then they had their outdoor riders switch to using the lighter, more aerodynamic indoor racing suits.
Indoor suits for outdoor races. Don't those lack padding?
They do. But they figured the tiny aerodynamic gain was worth more than the traditional comfort or padding over long distances. It was about finding that 1% everywhere.
Even cleaning processes?
Oh, yeah. They painted the inside of the team support truck white.
White. Why?
So they could spot even the tiniest speck of dust more easily. Dust could potentially get into the finely tuned bike mechanics and compromise performance even slightly. Every little bit mattered.
This is incredible dedication to the 1% idea. Maniacal, almost.
It was. The philosophy was simple. Improve everything by 1%, and those gains will compound dramatically.
And the results, well, they speak for themselves, don't they? It proved that outcomes are just a lagging measure of these consistent, tiny habits.
The turnaround was stunningly fast. Just 5 years after Brailsford took over, at the 2008 Beijing Olympics, the British team dominated, utterly dominated. They won 60% of the available gold medals in road and track cycling.
60%, from virtually zero baseline.
Then, 4 years later, at the London Olympics in 2012, they broke 9 Olympic records and 7 world records.
It's just staggering. And the Tour de France, that century-long drought.
Broken. Bradley Wiggins became the first ever British winner in 2012. Then his teammate Chris Froome won it 4 times between 2013 and 2017.
So that's 5 wins in 6 years for Britain after 110 years of nothing.
Exactly. And over that decade, British cycling racked up something like 178 world championships and 66 Olympic or Paralympic gold medals.
It's hard to even comprehend that level of shift. It really drives home that compounding point. Improving by 1% a day doesn't just add up linearly, does it?
Not at all. The math is wild. If you get 1% better each day for a year, you don't end up 365% better or 3.65 times better. You end up over 37 times better. It's exponential.
37 times. That's the power of consistency.
That's it. And that's why the sources emphasize that you get what you repeat. Your outcomes are lagging measures. Your net worth, it's a lagging measure of your financial habits.
Your weight, lagging measure of eating habits.
Your knowledge, lagging measure of your learning habits. The problem is that 1% improvement doesn't feel like much in the beginning. Day to day, it seems insignificant.
Yeah, you don't see the results immediately.
Right. But the work is being done. It's being stored, like potential energy.
And crucially, the sources warn us this compounding works both ways, right? It's not just for good habits.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Negative habits compound just as powerfully, maybe even more insidiously. Think about stress.
Okay.
One bad day at work, one traffic jam.
Yeah.
Annoying, but manageable. But small, daily stresses, job pressure, money worries, relationship friction, they don't just add up, they multiply. They compound over time, potentially leading to burnout or serious health problems.
It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts, but they're all feeding off each other.
Exactly. Same with negative thoughts. If you constantly repeat a story in your head like, I'm not good enough or I always mess things up.
That creates these mental grooves, right?
Deeply etched grooves. It conditions you to see every setback, every mistake as just more proof of that negative identity. You get trapped in this self-reinforcing loop. It compounds downward.
The sources also mention outrage compounding. That feels very relevant today.
It is. Think about large-scale social unrest or protests. It's rarely sparked by just one single incident, is it?
Usually not. There's a history.
Right. It's often a whole series of smaller frustrations, microaggressions, perceived injustices. They build up, compound under the surface, until one final event, just tips the scale and unleashes all that stored, compounded anger and frustration.
It's the same compounding principle, just with negative inputs.
Precisely. Which brings us to the big emotional hurdle people face when trying to build good habits, what the sources call the plateau of latent potential.
Right. This is where most people bail, isn't it? Because they put in the effort, the 1% changes, but they don't see the results yet.
Exactly. They get stuck in what feels like a valley of disappointment.
And the ice cube analogy here is just perfect for explaining this.
It really clarifies it. Imagine you have an ice cube sitting in a cold room. The temperature is, say, 25 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, well below freezing.
Right. Now the temperature slowly starts to rise. 26 degrees, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31 degrees. What happens to the ice cube?
Nothing. It's still frozen solid.
Exactly. You've put in 6 degrees worth of energy of change, but there's no visible difference in the state of the ice.
Right.
But then, that one extra degree, the shift from 31 to 32 degrees,
Boom, it starts to melt.
right, that final 1 degree shift, which felt no different than the previous ones, unlocks this massive visible transformation. The stored potential is released.
But the problem is when we're building habits, we live in that frustrating zone between 25 and 31 degrees for a while.
That's the valley of disappointment. People think, I've been going to the gym for a month, why don't I look different? Or, I've been saving a bit extra, why isn't my bank account huge?
They feel the effort, the temperature rising, but they don't see the ice melting yet.
And so they stop. They give up just before they hit that 32-degree tipping point. They fail to understand that all that early effort wasn't wasted. It was building up latent potential, waiting to break through the plateau.
So persistence through that initial no results phase is absolutely critical.
It's everything. You have to trust the process
Yeah.
and keep adding those degrees, even when you can't see the change yet.
Okay, so if compounding results are the payoff and persistence through the plateau is key, we need to understand what actually drives that consistent action.
Right. And this is where the focus shifts fundamentally away from just setting goals and towards building effective systems.
This is a really important distinction the sources make. What's wrong with being goal-focused? We're always told to set goals.
Goals aren't inherently bad, but a goals-first mentality has some serious flaws. First, it constantly pushes happiness off into the future.
How so?
You adopt this mindset of, okay, once I achieve this goal, lose 20 pounds, run a marathon, get the promotion, then I'll finally be happy or satisfied.
Right. Happiness is conditional on the outcome.
Exactly. But what happens when you actually hit the goal? Either you feel a bit empty because the chase is over, or you immediately set a new, harder goal, continuing the cycle. Or worse, you achieve the goal, stop the behaviors that got you there, and regress.
Like people who run a marathon and then stop running altogether.
Precisely. That's the second flaw. Goals often create this binary either-or situation. You either succeed or you fail. It restricts your satisfaction to only one narrow path.
And if you don't hit the goal, you feel like a failure, even if you made progress.
Right. The real problem is that achieving a goal only changes your life for that moment. To get lasting results, you need to change the systems that underlie your behavior. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
So the system is the process, the daily habits that lead towards the goal.
Yes, winners and losers often have the same goals. Every Olympian wants a gold medal. Every job applicant wants the job. Goals are about the desired outcome. Systems are about the process that leads to those outcomes.
And the sources argue that even deeper than the system of actions is something else.
Yes, the deepest level is your identity. We often try to change the wrong thing, focusing just on actions or outcomes. But behind every system of actions is a system of beliefs. Your identity, who you believe you are.
Can you give an example of that? Actions versus beliefs.
Think about quitting smoking. Someone might focus on the outcome, I'm going to stop smoking.
Yeah.
Or the action, I will resist the urge to have a cigarette.
Okay.
But the deepest change happens at the identity level. I am a non-smoker. When you adopt that identity, resisting a cigarette isn't about willpower anymore. It's about acting in alignment with who you are.
So the goal shouldn't be read a book, it should be become a reader.
Exactly. The focus shifts from what results do I want to who do I wish to become. That's the core of identity-based habits.
The sources say this is the ultimate form of motivation, right? When a habit is part of your identity.
It really is. It's one thing to say, I want this, like I want to be fit. It's profoundly different to say, I am this, like I am the type of person who doesn't miss workouts.
That feels much more powerful, more permanent.
Because it is. When your behavior and your identity are fully aligned, you're no longer pursuing behavior change. You're simply acting like the type of person you already believe yourself to be.
There's a great anecdote in the sources about this involving the entrepreneur Brian Clark and his nail-biting habit.
Yes, that illustrates it perfectly. He'd bitten his nails his whole life.
Mhm.
He tried using willpower to stop, and it worked temporarily.
But willpower fades, doesn't it?
It's finite. It runs out. The real lasting change came from something unexpected. He decided, on a whim, to get his first professional manicure.
A manicure, how did that help him stop biting his nails? Was it the cost?
Not the cost, no. It was the pride. For the first time, his nails actually looked nice. Really nice.
Ah.
And suddenly, he felt proud of his fingernails. He started thinking of himself as, I'm the type of person who takes care of his hands, who has nice nails.
So his identity shifted slightly.
Exactly. And once your pride gets involved in maintaining an identity, you'll fight tooth and nail, pun intended, to keep the habits that support it. Biting his nails would now contradict this new, proud identity. That's far more motivating long-term than just willpower.
That makes so much sense. Willpower is like forcing yourself. Identity is like being yourself.
Well put. And this also highlights the danger of negative identities. If you constantly repeat stories like, I'm terrible at math, or I'm just not a morning person, or I'm always late,
You create this internal pressure to act in ways that confirm that identity.
precisely, you subconsciously resist actions that contradict that self-image.
Yeah.
If you think you're bad at math, you might avoid situations where you have to use it, reinforcing the belief.
So how do you change that if you have a negative identity loop?
You have to deliberately cast votes for a new identity.
Cast votes. How does
Right.
that work?
Every action you take is like a vote for the type of person you want to become. So if you want to be a writer, writing one sentence today, even just one, is a vote for, I am a writer.
Okay.
Going to the gym for just 5 minutes is a vote for, I am someone who exercises. Eating one healthy meal is a vote for, I am a healthy eater.
So you don't need a landslide victory right away.
No, you don't need unanimous agreement from your past self. You just need to start accumulating evidence, casting enough votes over time so that the evidence starts to shift the balance. You build up proof of your new identity, one small action at a time.
That feels much more manageable than trying to overhaul your entire personality overnight.
It is. It reframes the goal.
Yeah.
The goal isn't just the outcome. The goal is to become the type of person who achieves those outcomes.
This also helps us understand what habits are fundamentally. The sources quote behavioral scientist Jason Rehad defining them.
Yes, he says habits are essentially reliable solutions to recurring problems in our environment. They're mental shortcuts learned from experience.
Shortcuts for efficiency.
Exactly. Your brain automates responses to common situations so you don't have to consciously analyze every little thing.
Which leads to another key point. Habits don't restrict freedom, they actually create it. Which sounds counterintuitive.
It does, because we often associate habits with routine and rigidity. But think about it. If you don't have good habits in place for the fundamentals, managing your money, maintaining your health, keeping your space tidy,
You're constantly dealing with crises or making decisions about those basic things, right?
right, your mental energy is constantly being drained by putting out fires or just deciding when to pay the bills or what to have for lunch. You have less freedom because the basics are chaotic.
But if you automate those fundamentals through habits,
You free up enormous amounts of mental bandwidth. Your conscious mind doesn't have to worry about whether the bills are paid or if you'll get exercise in. That frees you up to focus on higher-level thinking, creativity, problem-solving, spontaneity. Good habits handle the essentials so you can be free.
okay, that's a powerful reframe. So we've got the why, identity, and the importance of systems. Now let's get into the how. The 4 laws of behavior change. Law 1 is make it obvious.
Right. This law tackles the fact that so many habits happen on autopilot. They start before our conscious brain even registers what's going on.
Because they're driven by that fast, intuitive system 1 thinking we talked about.
Exactly. It's a non-conscious process. The cue triggers the habit automatically, which is efficient, but can also be, well, dangerous or just plain weird sometimes.
The sources had some funny, slightly alarming examples of this autopilot.
They did. Like the retail clerk who'd spent all day cutting up expired gift cards with scissors, a customer hands her a valid credit card.
And she just automatically cuts it in half. Oh, no.
Yeah, pure autopilot. Or the woman who used to be a preschool teacher and then changed careers.
And she kept asking her adult coworkers if they'd wash their hands after using the bathroom.
Exactly. Her brain was still running the old preschool teacher script in that context. The cue, someone leaving the restroom, triggered the old, deeply ingrained habit.
It shows how powerful those automatic responses are. But this pattern recognition is also what makes experts expert, right?
Absolutely. It's the flip side. That non-conscious processing allows experts to pick up on subtle cues that novices miss entirely.
Like the paramedic example.
Perfect example. The paramedic instantly recognized something was wrong with her father-in-law's face. She couldn't even articulate what it was initially, just that the pattern of blood flow looked off.
And it turned out to be a blocked artery. Her system 1 saw the pattern before her conscious mind could analyze it.
Right. Same with military analysts who can spot an enemy missile on a radar screen, even when it looks identical to friendly aircraft blips to the untrained eye. They've internalized thousands of hours of patterns.
Okay, so this autopilot is powerful for good and ill. How do we interrupt the bad habits or make sure we're conscious of the good ones? How do we make things obvious to our conscious brain, our system too?
One really effective technique comes from Japan's railway system, pointing and calling.
Pointing and calling. What's that?
It's a safety system designed to combat exactly this autopilot problem. Railway workers physically point at important signals or indicators and verbally call out their status.
So they'd point at a speed dial and say, speed is 75, or point at a signal and say, signal is green.
Precisely. That simple physical and verbal act forces the action out of the non-conscious automatic realm and into conscious awareness. You have to stop, look, register, and confirm.
Does it actually work?
Amazingly well. Studies show it reduces errors by up to 85% and cuts accidents by nearly 30% in Japanese railways.
85% reduction in errors. That's huge.
It is. Even a modified point-only version used in the New York City subway system reduced the number of times trains stopped at the wrong spot on the platform by 57% in just 2 years. It breaks the automaticity.
So we can apply this personally by just pointing and saying things out loud.
You can. Like the author's wife's ritual before leaving the house for a trip. She touches or points to her essentials and says them aloud.
Got my keys. Got my wallet. Got my passport.
Got my husband.
Right. It forces a conscious check, making it obvious if something is missing. The more automatic a habit is, the less likely we are to think about it. To change it or ensure it happens, you need to bring awareness back. Make the cue obvious.
Okay, that's about conscious awareness. What about the environment itself? How does that make cues obvious?
Environment design is huge. Because, simply put, we're more likely to notice cues that stand out, that are right there in our path. It's about shaping the choice architecture around us.
Choice architecture, like how options are presented.
Exactly. The hospital cafeteria study by Dr. Ann Thorndike is a classic example. They wanted staff to drink more water and less soda.
Did they lecture them? Put up posters?
Nope. No nagging, no education campaign. They simply changed the environment. They added bottled water to the refrigerators right next to the cash registers, where previously only soda had been available. So water became just as visually obvious as soda at the point of purchase.
Right. And they also put big baskets of bottled water near the food stations. They didn't remove the soda, they just made the healthy choice incredibly obvious and easy to grab.
And the result?
Over just 3 months, soda sales dropped by 11.4%. And bottled water sales jumped by 25.8%, simply by making the desired cue, the water, more obvious.
That's powerful. It shows how much our environment passively shapes our choices.
Totally. It's why supermarkets put impulse buys near the checkout, and why products placed at eye level or on end-of-aisle displays sell so much more. They're obvious. The sources mention nearly half of Coca-Cola's sales come from those end-cap displays.
It's the path of least resistance visually.
Exactly, and this applies beyond purchasing. Think about energy conservation. A study found that homes where the electricity meter was located in the main hallway,
Where people walked past it and saw it constantly.
used significantly less electricity than homes where the meter was hidden away in the basement. Making the energy usage obvious changed the behavior.
Like the fly sticker in the urinals at Schiphol Airport.
Perfect example. Adding that little black fly sticker near the drain gave men an obvious target. Sounds silly, but
It reportedly reduced urinal spillage and cut bathroom cleaning costs by 8% a year just by making the aim here cue obvious.
it works. So to leverage this, the sources recommend the mantra, one space, one use.
Meaning you dedicate specific locations for specific habits.
Yes, you create a strong association between a context and a habit. If you only ever work at your desk, sitting down at your desk becomes a powerful, obvious cue to start working. If you struggle with watching TV in bed, try making the bedroom only for sleep.
Like the advice given to insomniacs.
Exactly. They're often told, only get into bed when you're actually feeling tired. If you can't sleep after, say, 15 minutes, get up, go to another room, and only return to bed when you feel sleepy again.
You're retraining the brain to see the bed as an obvious cue only for sleep, not for tossing and turning or watching shows.
Precisely. You make the cue for the desired habit unmistakably obvious within this designated context.
Okay, that's law 1, make it obvious. Let's move to law 2, make it attractive. This seems to be about the motivation, the craving.
It is. If Law 1 is about the external trigger or cue, Law 2 is about the internal engine that responds our desire. And that engine is powered, fundamentally, by dopamine.
Ah, dopamine, the pleasure chemical.
Yes and no. That's the common understanding, but it's more nuanced. Habits operate on a dopamine-driven feedback loop. But the key insight is that dopamine spikes not just when you receive a reward, but significantly when you anticipate a reward.
So it's more about the wanting than the having.
To a large extent, yes. Dopamine is the chemical of desire, of craving, of motivation to act. It's released when your brain predicts something good is about to happen.
And biologically, this anticipation is actually more powerful.
The brain's wiring suggests so. We have far more neural circuitry dedicated to wanting rewards than we do to actually liking or enjoying them.
Really, how much more?
Studies on the nucleus accumbens, a key reward center, show that maybe 100% of it is activated during the wanting phase, the anticipation. But only about 10% might be involved in the actual liking or pleasure phase.
Wow. So the motivation to get the reward is neurologically stronger than the pleasure of the reward itself.
That seems to be the case. And it helps explain addiction. Think about those lab mice that would press a lever hundreds of times an hour just to get a dopamine hit.
They weren't necessarily enjoying hundreds of rewards. They were driven by the anticipation, the wanting.
Exactly. Or slot machine players, pulling lever maybe 600 times an hour. It's the near misses, the anticipation of the jackpot that keeps them hooked, often more than the actual small wins.
Okay, so if anticipation is this powerful driver, how do we harness it for good habits? Especially for habits that aren't naturally exciting, like, say, flossing or doing expense reports.
The main strategy here is called temptation bundling.
Temptation bundling sounds intriguing.
It's basically linking an action you want to do with an action you need to do. You use the thing you're already craving as the reward for doing the harder task.
So you bundle the temptation with the chore.
Right. It leverages something called Pre-Max principle. More probable behaviors, things you like doing, can reinforce less probable behaviors, things you need to do.
Give us an example. How would that work?
The sources have a great one about an engineering student in Ireland, Ronan Byrne. He enjoyed watching Netflix, but he knew he needed to exercise more.
A common dilemma.
So what did he do? He literally hacked his stationary bike and hooked it up to his laptop and TV.
He hacked his bike. How?
He programmed it so that Netflix would only play if he was cycling above a certain speed, if he slowed down too much.
The show stopped.
Yep, Netflix paused until he got his speed back up. He bundled the temptation, watching Netflix, with the necessary action, cycling. The desire to see what happens next in the show became the motivation to keep pedaling.
That's brilliant. So the craving for the enjoyable activity drives the less enjoyable one.
Exactly. You can do this yourself. Maybe you love listening to a certain podcast. Only allow yourself to listen to it while you're doing chores or commuting. Or you enjoy a fancy coffee. Only get it after you've completed your morning workouts.
Bundling the want with the need. We also see this used in marketing, right? Like ABC's TGIT campaign.
Oh, yeah, that's a perfect large-scale example. TGIT, thank God it's Thursday with Shonda Rhimes' block of shows on ABC.
Grey's Anatomy, scandal.
Right. ABC didn't just promote the shows. They actively encouraged viewers to bundle the viewing experience with other attractive rituals. Things like pouring a glass of red wine, making popcorn.
They made the act of watching TV on Thursday night feel like a desirable event, a whole package.
Exactly. They bundled the needed action, watching their shows, with things people already found attractive, relaxing, indulging. It made the whole prospect more appealing, increasing the craving for Thursday night TV.
Smart. Okay, so temptation bundling links needs and wants. What's the other major force that makes habits attractive?
Social norms. The immense, often unconscious desire to fit in with the groups we belong to.
We're herd animals, basically.
Fundamentally, yes. For thousands of years of human evolution, being part of a tribe was essential for survival. Being cast out often meant death. The lone wolf dies, but the pack survives, as the saying goes.
So we have this deep-seated, ancient drive to belong, to imitate others, to seek approval.
Absolutely. It's baked into our system one. So if a certain behavior helps us fit in, gain approval, or bond with our group, that behavior becomes incredibly attractive.
And the sources say we tend to imitate three specific groups.
That's right. First, we imitate the close.
Yeah.
Our family, our friends. Habits are highly contagious within our immediate circles.
Like if your friends smoke, you're more likely to start, or you pick up your partner's quirky habit.
Exactly. The closer the relationship, the stronger the influence. Second, we imitate the many, the majority, the prevailing social norm.
This is like when you're choosing a restaurant in a new town and you pick the busy one.
Right. Or checking Amazon or Yelp reviews before buying something. When we're uncertain, we look to the crowd for guidance. Conforming feels safe and normal, so habits practiced by the majority become attractive.
And the third group.
We imitate the powerful, those with high status or prestige. We naturally look up to and copy the behaviors of people we admire or who seem successful.
So if someone successful promotes a certain habit, it instantly seems more attractive.
Definitely. We want what they have, so we imitate what they do.
So the key takeaway here is that our culture defines what's normal and therefore attractive.
Pretty much. If you grow up in a family where everyone reads constantly, reading seems like a normal, attractive habit. If you join a company where everyone exercises during their lunch break, that behavior starts to feel normal and achievable for you too.
The example of the MIT robotics class was striking.
Yeah, 4 out of 10 students from one specific class ended up becoming astronauts. When you're surrounded by people performing at an extremely high level, your perception of what's possible and normal just shifts upwards. It makes ambitious habits seem much more attainable and attractive.
But there's a dark side to this desire to conform, isn't there? Sticking with the group isn't always rational.
Not at all. The pull to belong is often stronger than the pull to be right or efficient. The chimpanzee study mentioned is fascinating.
Tell us about that.
Researchers observed chimps using different methods to crack nuts in different groups. Some methods were clearly more effective than others, but when a chimp moved from a group with an effective method to a new group with a less effective method—
What did it do? Stick with its better technique.
Nope. It quickly abandoned its superior technique and adopted the less effective but socially accepted method of the new group.
Wow. Just to fit in.
Just to fit in. Yeah. The reward of being accepted by the tribe outweighed the reward of cracking nuts more efficiently. It shows how deep that conformity instinct runs.
So trying to build a habit that goes against the grain of your social group is incredibly difficult.
It requires fighting that powerful tide of social norms. The easiest way to make a desired habit attractive is to join a culture where that behavior is already the norm. Surround yourself with people for whom the habit you want is just normal life.
Makes sense. Okay, laws 1 and 2. Make it obvious, make it attractive. Now, law 3. Make it easy.
Right. And this one might be the most practical. It acknowledges a fundamental truth about human nature. We are wired to follow the law of least effort.
We're inherently lazy.
Not necessarily lazy, but definitely geared towards conserving energy. Given multiple options, we will naturally gravitate towards the one that requires the least amount of work, the least friction.
Even if we're highly motivated for the harder option.
Motivation can overcome friction, but only up to a point. If a habit requires too much effort, too consistently, even strong motivation will eventually fade. Making things easy is crucial for long-term consistency.
The sources use a really large-scale example for the spread of agriculture. How does that relate to making habits easy?
It's a fantastic illustration of friction. Agriculture, which is basically a collection of farming habits and technologies spread across Eurasia, from east to west, about 2 to 3 times faster than it spread north to south in the Americas or Africa.
Faster east-west than north-south. Why?
Less friction. Along an east-west axis, like from France to China, the latitude is roughly similar. That means the climate, the length of days, the seasons, they're generally consistent.
So a crop that worked in one place could easily be grown further east or west.
Exactly. Farmers could domesticate a few key crops like wheat or barley, and those farming habits could spread relatively easily across the continent with minimal adaptation.
Low friction.
But going north-south.
Huge friction. Think about the Americas. The climate changes dramatically as you move from, say, Mexico northward to Canada or southward towards Chile.
Totally different crops needed, different growing seasons, different techniques. Right. You couldn't just take corn from Central America and expect it to thrive easily in the northern U.S. without significant adaptation over time. The same with potatoes from the Andes spreading elsewhere. Each latitude required new domestication, new farming habits. The high friction slowed the spread.
That's a fascinating way to think about friction on a massive scale. How do we apply that reduce friction idea to our daily habits?
We need to consciously design our environment to make good habits the path of least resistance. This is about priming the environment.
Priming it, like setting things up in advance.
Exactly. It's about being, as one developer put it, proactively lazy, reducing the number of steps between you and the desired action.
Like the example of Oswald Knuckles and his resetting the room habit.
Yes, his goal wasn't just tidying up after himself. It was actively preparing for the next action. So when he finishes watching TV, he doesn't just leave the remote on the couch. He puts it back in its designated spot, folds the blanket.
Ready for the next time he wants to relax.
Right. Or while his shower's warming up, he quickly wipes down the toilet. He's reducing the friction for the next time he needs to clean the bathroom. The environment is always primed, making the start of the next good habit easier.
So if you want to exercise in the morning, lay out your workout clothes the night before, reduces the friction of getting started.
Perfect example. Want to eat healthier? Chop your vegetables on Sunday for the whole week. Friction for cooking healthy meals during the week goes way down. Want to practice guitar? Leave it out on a stand, not packed away in its case in the closet.
Make the starting point effortless.
As effortless as possible. And the ultimate way to make something easy. Automation.
Using technology to do the habit for you.
Basically, yes. Technology is often the most reliable way to guarantee the right behavior because it removes conscious effort almost entirely after the initial setup.
Like setting up automatic bill payments or automatic transfers to a savings account.
Exactly. Those are perfect examples.
Yeah.
You make one decision up front, and the technology handles the consistent execution. Friction is zero.
The sources mention this is especially good for infrequent but important habits.
Yes, things you need to do maybe once a year or quarterly, like rebalancing your investment portfolio or contributing to an IRA, these don't happen often enough to become deeply ingrained habits, so automating them is ideal.
Or using website blockers to prevent procrastination.
Definitely. Block distracting sites during work hours. The friction of having to disable the blocker makes the bad habit harder. The author's example of his assistant resetting his social media passwords is a human version of this.
Right, she'd reset them every Monday morning, logging him out everywhere. He wouldn't get the new passwords until Friday.
The sheer friction of having to email or call his assistant just to check Instagram during the work week made it way too much effort. He automated making the bad habit difficult, thereby making the good habit, focusing on work, easier by default.
Okay, friction reduction is key. Now for the final law, Law 4. Make it satisfying.
Yes. And this law directly confronts our brain's wiring for immediate gratification. If Law 3 was about overcoming laziness, Law 4 is about overcoming impatience.
Because we evolved in a world where rewards were immediate, right?
Exactly. Our ancestors lived in an immediate return environment. You hunt the animal, you eat now. You see the berries, you eat now. You run from the predator, you survive now. The feedback loop was tight and immediate.
But modern life is mostly a delayed return environment.
Right. You work hard today, but the paycheck comes later. You exercise today, but the health benefits accumulate slowly over months or years. You save money now, but retirement is decades away.
And our brains just aren't naturally good at prioritizing those long-term benefits over short-term pleasure.
Not really. We have a strong present bias. We value today's rewards much more highly than future rewards. That's why breaking bad habits, which often offer immediate pleasure, and sticking to good habits where the reward is delayed is so hard.
So Law 4 is about hacking this. How do we make habits with delayed returns feel satisfying now?
The cardinal rule of behavior change, as the sources call it, is simple. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided. So you need to find a way to attach some form of immediate satisfaction to your good habits.
Make the end of the habit feel good right away.
Yes. Even a small reward, a small hit of satisfaction, signals to your brain, hey, that was good, let's do it again.
The hand-washing study in Karachi, Pakistan is a great illustration of this.
It really is. Public health officials knew people in certain neighborhoods understood that hand washing was important for preventing disease. Knowledge wasn't the barrier.
It was consistency, right? People just weren't doing it regularly.
Exactly. So researchers partnered with Procter & Gamble and provided residents with Safeguard soap.
What was special about Safeguard?
It wasn't just basic soap. It was designed to be a more pleasant experience. It foamed up nicely. It smelled good. It felt more like a premium product.
So they didn't focus on the long-term health benefits. They focused on making the immediate act of washing more enjoyable.
Precisely. That slightly more pleasurable sensory experience. The nice smell, the rich lather, provided an immediate positive feedback signal. It made the habit feel good in the moment. And guess what?
Hand washing rates went up significantly.
Dramatically.
Yeah.
Making the habit immediately satisfying drove consistency far better than just knowing the delayed benefit of disease prevention.
Okay, so how can we apply that? We can't always make flossing smell amazing.
True. But you can add a different kind of immediate reward. Think about saving money, which is usually about not doing something fun, like eating out.
Right, the reward, more money later, is delayed, and the immediate feeling is deprivation.
So you flip it. The sources mention a couple who wanted to save for a trip to Europe. They opened a separate savings account, specifically labeled Trip to Europe.
Okay.
Every time they successfully resisted the urge to eat out for dinner, they immediately transfer $50 from their checking account into that Trip to Europe account.
Ah, so the reward wasn't just the abstract idea of saving. It was the immediate, concrete satisfaction of seeing that vacation fund visibly grow right then and there.
Exactly. It made the inaction, not eating out, immediately satisfying. They got a little dopamine hit from moving the money.
That's clever, using immediate reinforcement. What about habit tracking? How does that fit in?
Habit tracking is powerful because it often taps into multiple laws at once, especially satisfaction. Think of Trent Dearsmid, the stockbroker, and his paperclip strategy.
Right, the jars of paper clips. Remind us how that worked.
He was a rookie broker and knew he needed to make sales calls, but it wasn't inherently satisfying. So each morning, he put 120 paperclips in one jar. Every time he made a sales call, he moved one paperclip to a second empty jar.
So he had this clear visual measure of progress throughout the day.
Exactly. Moving that paperclip was a small, immediate act of satisfaction. It made the progress obvious. Law 1. It became attractive because he didn't want to break the chain of moving clips. Law 2. And it provided instant gratification. Law 4.
He didn't stop until the first jar was empty.
Right. That simple system gave him immediate positive feedback, making the mundane task of cold calling satisfying enough to stick with. And apparently, it worked wonders for his career.
So tracking creates its own little reward loop. Conversely, for bad habits, we need to make the consequences immediate, right? That's where accountability contracts come in.
Yes, if immediate reward reinforces good habits, then immediate pain or cost helps eliminate bad habits. The key is that the consequence can't be vague or far off in the future. It has to be immediate and tangible.
The source's example of the nuclear codes being implanted near someone's heart is extreme.
Huh. Yes, that was political strategist Roger Fisher's rather dramatic thought experiment to make the consequences of nuclear war immediate and visceral for the president. Probably not practical.
Thankfully not. But the principle holds. Make the cost real and immediate, like Brian Harris's diet contract.
That's a much more down-to-earth example. He wanted to lose weight and get healthier, so he made a formal contract with his wife and his trainer.
What did the contract involve?
Clear, measurable actions. He had to log all his food intake and weigh himself daily. And, crucially, there were immediate, painful penalties for failure.
Painful how?
Initially, if he missed a target, he had to pay his trainer $200. Later, they upped the stakes. Missing goals meant paying his wife $500, or perhaps the most motivating penalty for him having to wear the hat of his favorite football team's bitter rival, Alabama, to work for the rest of the quarter.
Ouch. Social shame and financial pain combined. That's immediate, all right.
Exactly. It created a clear, immediate, undesirable consequence for slipping up, making the bad habit, slacking on his diet, immediately unsatisfying.
So, satisfaction for good habits, immediate cost for bad ones.
Yeah.
Got it. What about keeping habits going long term after the novelty wears off?
Ah, yes. The challenge of boredom. This is where the Goldilocks rule comes in.
Not too hard, not too easy, but just right.
Precisely. The sources argue that humans experience peak motivation when they're working on tasks that are right on the edge of their current abilities, just manageable difficulty.
What happens if it's too easy?
You get bored. There's no challenge, no sense of progress.
And if it's too hard?
You get frustrated, discouraged, maybe anxious. You feel overwhelmed.
So the sweet spot is that zone where it's challenging enough to keep you engaged, but not so hard that you feel hopeless.
Right. You need a mix of success and failure, roughly 50-50, to stay motivated and feel like you're stretching yourself.
The Steve Martin example illustrates this, right? How he built his comedy career.
Perfectly. He didn't start out doing hour-long specials. He started with 1-minute routines, then gradually increased to 5 minutes, then 10. Over 18 years, he slowly expanded his set length and complexity.
Always pushing the edge, but never jumping too far ahead.
Exactly. He needed enough successful jokes, victories, to stay motivated, but enough jokes that bombed mistakes to keep working hard, refining his material, staying engaged. He stayed in that Goldilocks zone, preventing boredom.
So we need to constantly adjust our habits to stay in that zone, make them slightly harder as we improve.
Yes, calibration is key. And this also links to the idea of playing the right game for you. If you find a habit consistently too hard or too boring, maybe it's not the right game for your skill set.
This involves the explore-exploit trade-off.
Right. This is a concept from behavioral science and machine learning. Basically, any organism or system needs to balance exploiting what already works well with exploring new possibilities.
How does that balance usually look?
A common rule of thumb is about 80–90% exploitation, keep doing the main thing that gives you results, and 10–20% exploration, trying new approaches, learning new skills, experimenting.
Like a business focusing 90% on its core products but dedicating 10% to R&D for future products.
Exactly. You need to keep refining your main habits.
Yeah.
Exploit, but also periodically step back and explore if there's a better way or even a different game you should be playing altogether.
Which leads to the Scott Adams strategy, winning by being different.
Yeah, the creator of Dilbert. His argument is powerful. He admits he wasn't the world's best artist or the funniest comedian or the savviest business mind.
Average, or maybe slightly above average in several areas.
Right. But he combined those skills, drawing, humor, specifically office humor, and his business background into a unique combination. In the niche category of business humor cartoonist, he was suddenly world-class.
So if you can't be the absolute best in a crowded field, find a unique intersection of your skills where you can be the best. Create your own category.
That's the idea. Find a game where your particular strengths give you an advantage and where, importantly, you can tolerate the boredom or the pain of practice more easily than most other people.
Find the intersection of your skills and your tolerance for the grind.
Well put. And underpinning all of this, staying in the Goldilocks zone, exploring new strategies, making sure you're playing the right game, is the need for regular self-reflection.
You have to check in with yourself, otherwise you just drift.
Exactly. You can fall victim to the gradual slide, where your habits slowly become less effective, or you drift away from the identity you want to embody, without even noticing.
So things like an annual review.
Yes. Taking time once a year to explicitly ask, what went well? What didn't go well? What did I learn? How can I improve next year?
And the integrity report. What's that?
That's about regularly checking if your current habits and actions actually align with your stated core values and the identity you're trying to build. Are you living in integrity with who you say you want to be?
So if you say your identity is a healthy person, but your habit tracker shows you've skipped the gym most days for a month.
The integrity report forces you to confront that mismatch and consciously decide whether to change your actions or maybe even revise your stated identity or values. It prevents self-deception.
It keeps you honest and ensures the system stays aligned.
Crucial for long-term success.
Okay, this has been incredibly insightful. Let's try to wrap this up. We've gone through the power of atomic habits, the compounding effect, the plateau, the importance of identity.
And then the 4 laws. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying.
Right. And the overwhelming takeaway seems to be that huge success doesn't usually come from finding the one next big thing.
No, it really doesn't. It comes from the patient, consistent application of these fundamental laws to those small, everyday atomic behaviors, day after day, week after week.
And the underlying driver for all of this, the thing that makes the laws work, comes back to emotion, doesn't it?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, emotions drive behavior. Our quick, intuitive, feeling-based System 1 usually acts before our rational System 2 gets a chance to weigh in.
So you have to make the desired action feel good or attractive or easy or satisfying in the moment. You can't just rely on willpower or long-term logic.
That's the essence of it. You have to work with your brain's preference for immediate feedback, not against it.
Which leads us to a really provocative final thought from the sources, something for you, the listener, to really chew on. It's about hope versus acceptance.
Yes. The idea is that hope, especially for beginners, tends to decline with experience. You start a new diet full of hope, but after trying and failing a few times, that hope gets replaced by a more sober acceptance of the difficulty.
So why are we always drawn to new plans, new productivity hacks, new workout routines?
Because new plans offer unbounded hope. They aren't weighed down by the reality of past failures or the understanding of how hard sustained effort actually is. It's like Aristotle said about youth. They're easily deceived because they hope easily.
So the real challenge isn't finding yet another new plan.
No. The real challenge is accepting the often slow, sometimes boring reality of the compound effect. We love hearing about the overnight success, the explosion, but we ignore the years of silent, unglamorous accumulation that made it possible.
And the key is to find ways to fall in love with that process, with the boredom of consistency.
That seems to be it. The sources suggest the difference between professionals and amateurs isn't just talent or better plans, it's that professionals show up and do the work even when they don't feel like it, even when it's boring, even when the initial excitement has faded. They stick to the schedule, they trust the process.
Falling in love with the boredom, that's a powerful place to end. Find the system that works, and then find the satisfaction in just showing up. Thank you for diving deep with us today.